Back in 1995, I left my fish for a week and had someone I trusted feeding them for me while I was gone. And I came home to a bunch of dead fish. And you know what's great? I have the balls to tell you it was my fault. On a warm Saturday in September of 1995, I participated in an event. It was one of those events that is at a church where all of the family and friends sacrifice an entire day on a Saturday to come to this event that there's a 60% chance is going to be a total waste of time. And in my case, we were part of that 60%. Anyway, at this event, we spent time at the church, and then we went to this reception hall where everybody drank a bunch of booze and did the electric slide and danced to YMCA. One of the benefits for the host couple at an event like this is that everybody brings them gifts, and they give them a bunch of money and bread makers and picture frames and a bunch of other nonsense. And we got all of that. And then we got into my 1991 Mustang GT that had a bunch of nonsense written all over the windows and toilet paper all over it. And we drove away from that event. It's kind of a ridiculous ritual if you think about that, but we did all of that. And then we drove off into the sunset and went on vacation for a week to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Labor Day week, when everything's closed. But who cares about all that? The point is, we were on vacation for a week, and I left my aquariums in the hands of somebody that I trusted to take care of them for that week that I was gone. I left them in the hands of one of my absolute best friends, and he's a guy that participated in that ceremony that I was talking about that weekend. But anyway, this is a guy that was renting a room from us, and he was always around when I was feeding my fish and doing my tank maintenance. He was one of my best friends. He was always there. So I just kind of figured he knew exactly what to do. Like, I didn't need to tell him how to do any of this. He was always there. So just do what I was doing. I wasn't asking him to take care of my aquariums. I was just asking him to feed the fish while I was gone. And I didn't think I needed to give him a detailed lesson plan because he was always there. He knew how I did this. But this again was 1995. So it's not like I could just text him and say, hey, did you feed the fish? Hey, what did you give the arowanas? Hey, why do we always do this when like we used to do this and now we do that? It's ridiculous. But I didn't have any way of staying on top of him to make sure that he was doing things right. I just assumed that everything was going to be fine. And I didn't worry about it. But I should have. And let me just say this before I go any further. I'm not mad at this guy. He did what I asked him to do. He just didn't do it right. And that's why, again, like I said in the intro to this was my fault. This was my fault that this happened. And I'm going to share with you how you can avoid this problem. What is it that happened? Well, I came home from that week-long vacation in Myrtle Beach when everything was closed and we got the flu and it really wasn't all that good of a time. But we got home and there was all kinds of carnage in my aquariums. I think I had 5 aquariums at the time. There was all this uneaten food floating around the top of the tank. Fish were dead. The tanks were, it was horrible. It was terrifying. And the reason why it happened is because my friend that was taking care of them, I guess he wasn't paying attention when I would feed the fish around him and stuff like that. He just thought, well, let me just throw some handfuls in there, maybe throw a bunch in there today so that I don't have to feed them tomorrow. I don't know. I don't know what he was thinking or why he did it the way he did. I never really asked him. That's what happened. He just threw like all the food in there. And of course that caused the problem that we know it's going to cause. It caused huge ammonia spikes in all the tanks. Fish were gasping for air. Almost all of my fish died. It was a complete and total nightmare. But again, this was my fault. I didn't ensure that he knew exactly what to do. He didn't know to just put a couple in there. He didn't know, don't worry about it. Just feed them, every couple of days. You don't have to feed them 4 or 5 times a day. You don't need to dump the whole bag of food in there. I know some of my fish are bigger, but they're going to be fine. Just sprinkle a little bit in. I didn't go through any of that. And I should have. there I go assuming somebody just knows because they were with me when I did something. I don't know. I guess it's kind of like you can ride in a car your whole life. It doesn't mean you know how to drive. That's a pretty brilliant analogy. You'll probably be very proud of me to know that I did not freak out on this guy because I knew right then and there this was a huge mistake. This happened because I didn't tell him exactly what to do. I was in my early 20s and so was he. We're all just a bunch of dummies walking around. He didn't know what to do, and I wasn't smart enough to let him know what needed to be done. And so I couldn't be mad at him. I wanted to be, but I couldn't be because this really was my fault. So how do we as fish keepers avoid this? The answer is simple. Just never go on vacation. Who needs vacations anyway? They're no big deal, especially Myrtle Beach after Labor Day. That's a dumb idea. I'm not lying to you. I don't think I've been on a vacation for 5 years, but don't feel sorry for me. I'm not saying that to get sympathy from you. Just is what it is. Lisa and I like to be home, and it's almost like, because we work for ourselves and we're very fortunate to do what we do, it's almost like we're always on vacation. So I'm not complaining about it. But anyway, if you are someone who's going to be going on vacation and you have multiple aquariums, you're probably freaking out. What is it that I need to do? And you've heard this story and it makes it even worse. You're like, what am I going to do? All of my fish are going to die. Well, no, they're not. I have the simplest way to ensure that everything's going to be fine. It should be totally common sense, but to some people that this is all new to them, might not be. So for those people, you're welcome. Here's what you do. Whatever it is that your normal routine is, as far as feeding your fish, if you feed your fish twice a day, if you feed them every day, whatever it is, you're going to cut way, way, way back on that. Why? Because putting a lot of food in the tank can lead to problems. Even putting the normal amount of food that you are used to putting in can cause problems. And if it does and you're home to react, everything's fine. But if you're on vacation for a week after Labor Day when everything's closed, you're not going to know that this is happening. And you can't expect that your friend or your mom or your aunt is going to know what to do if problems happen. Yes, we have easy communication devices right now where they can reach out to you and FaceTime you and you can solve the problem that way, but you shouldn't even have to do that. This is very simple. Whatever that normal routine is that you're used to doing, I want you to cut that by like a quarter. I know that sounds barbaric. I know you're hearing that and you're like, that's ridiculous. There's no way I'm going to cut back from feeding my fish twice a day to only feeding them once every other day. They're going to starve. That is animal abuse. There's no way I would do that. And my response to that is, well, and if you have problems, then you've kind of asked for it. I promise you, your fish are going to be fine. These fish can go so much longer without eating than you think. They're going to find little things to pick at in the tank. They're going to clean the tank up nicely for you, which is a good thing. I promise you, they're not going to starve if you go an extra day. For me, what we do, we feed all of our fish once a day. Every single tank in our fish house, we feed once per day. Even these big fellas in here. And you know what? If we go out of town, which we have gone out of town over the course of the last 3 years since being here, I just don't think I'd call them vacations. We've gone on working trips to Aquashellas and to people's houses to help them with their aquariums and stuff like that. And Fins and Fury a year ago, we've gone to events. And when we've gone to those events, we've had to have pet sitters come here and take care of things for us. If we're only going to be gone a couple days, we don't even have them come in this room other than to feed Carl and baby Kitty that are in here. We don't have them feed the fish at all. But if we're going to be gone 5-6 days, then I'll tell you what we do. And if you're new to fish keeping and you're still feeding your fish 2-3 times a day, you're going to think this is crazy. We'll have them feed them once while we're gone. Maybe twice. If we have somebody coming to the house every day to take care of the cats and take care of the dogs and stuff like that, and we're going to be gone for 6 days, we might have them feed the fish twice. But more than likely, it's just going to be once. We'll feed them right before we leave. We'll have them get fed once while we're gone, and then we'll feed them when we get back. And I don't think we've ever lost a fish when we've gone on trips like that. Not even one. We've had no problems either because we haven't been throwing fuel into the fire that causes problems. And there's a very specific way of how we ensure that there's not going to be any problems. It's the simplest thing ever. We give them exactly how much food to feed. Now, here's what I mean. We have a pet sitter. Her name's Lindsay. She's awesome. She's the best. She takes the best care of all of our pets. And she knows how to take care of aquariums, but we don't require that of her. We don't ask her to know what's going on with aquariums, and we don't ask her to make any decisions. Instead, we lay everything out for her. And I don't mean send her a long text that says on Wednesday, do this, do that, do that. No, it's not that way at all. In fact, it's easier. Somebody without even a brain could come in here and do it. You want to know what that is? We take Ziploc bags. I shouldn't say we. I've never done this. Lisa's done it every time. She's the best. She'll buy a box of Ziploc bags and she will write the date on that bag, and she'll take that bag and tape it directly to the aquarium. It's hanging right there. So when our pet sitter comes into here to pet, she pet the pets too, but she feeds the pets. That's the main goal of it. She will see those and she'll know, okay, the date is the 23rd. I'll put this in there. Everything that's in the bag, just dump it in there into that aquarium that it's taped to. How simple is that? That's all you need to do. And again, if you're going to be gone a week, if you're gone for 2 weeks, what do you do for a living? Because I need to know how I can afford to go on a 2-week-long vacation. Most people are going to go on vacation for a long weekend or maybe a week. If that's the case for you, I would put 2 bags on all of your tanks. If you're used to feeding your fish once a day, or even if you feed them twice a day, put the amount of food, no more, the amount of food that you would put into the tank for one feeding, put that into that Ziploc bag. Write the date on it or the day of the week, whichever, and tape that to the tank. This way your pet sitter knows, okay, on Wednesday, I'm going to be doing all of this. She comes in or he comes in on Wednesday, takes all of those bags, dumps them into the tanks. That's it. There's nothing more complicated than that. Nothing else needs to be done. And obviously, have your pet sitter take a nice glance in all of the tanks. If there's any floaters in there, or if there's any problems, if the fish are up at the top, or let me know, and hopefully you have time. I can walk you through how to do that. But the biggest point here is if you're feeding sparingly, and your fish are not going to starve, I promise. If you're feeding them sparingly, you shouldn't have any problems. You should come home and all of your tanks are spick and span. They're fine. There isn't this huge algae problems and your tanks aren't all crashing and falling apart because you haven't thrown fuel on that fire. All you've done is put the absolute bare minimum in there to keep the fish happy. Otherwise, when they're not being fed all of that extra food that you're used to giving them, they're going to go around and they're going to go under the rocks and they're going to pick out little things. There's uneaten food all over the place in your tank. You just don't know it. Your fish are going to find that and they're going to be fine. I promise they're not going to start eating each other. There's not going to be anarchy in all of your tanks because you didn't feed them for a day or even 2 days. I promise they're going to be fine. Something you may not be aware of is a lot of fish stores don't even ever feed their fish. I know that sounds absolutely ridiculous, but it's the truth. They don't feed their fish. So they're in transit from overseas or wherever they're coming from for 3 or 4 days. They get into the tanks at your fish store and they stay in those tanks until they get sold. And a lot of times they never even eat. What's that tell you? Fish can go a lot longer than you think they can. I'm not saying deliberately starve your fish. What I am saying is give them the bare minimum so that there's no problems caused in there. There's no anything. It's just, it's peace of mind. It's knowing your fish are going to be fine and there's no decisions that need to be made. There's no, how much do I put in here? Which one do I put in this tank? No, it's all right there. It's in Ziploc bags taped to the tanks. There isn't even any thought that has to go into it. You can have the dumbest pet sitter alive. I have one of the smartest, but yours could be the dumbest alive and still not screw this up. Whatever's in the bag, put it in the tank. Your job is done. Thank you very much. How much do I owe you? That's all it is. It couldn't be easier than that. And if you're going for a long-term vacation, because you're one of those rich people that can go on vacation for 2 weeks, I don't know what that feels like, but maybe someday I will. If that's you, nothing changes. Everything's the same. You'll just have multiple bags taped to your tank. You might have 3, maybe 4, and have your pet sitter feed the fish every other day or every third day or something like that. I promise you, your fish are going to be fine. If this is new to you, I know you don't believe me. I know you think I'm an animal abuser. I promise I'm not. Your fish are going to be fine. Rest assured, go on your vacation and enjoy yourself rather than stressing out the entire time, wondering if your fish are okay. You're going to come home and everything's going to be fine, and you can go back to your life when you're not on vacation anymore. And if you've been gone 2 weeks, you're probably ready for that. But anyway, every vacation I've ever been on, I've been ready to go home at the end. I don't know if that's you or not, but that is me. And you know what? I would rather go home and not have a bunch of dead fish. Now, if something happens where there's like a tank leak or something absolutely catastrophic, well, that's the risk you take as a fish keeper. We all have that risk. It sucks to worry about that, but it is what it is. Thankfully, we have these where you might be able, if your pet sitter is willing to put in the work, you might be able to walk them through something like that. But hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully it's as simple as just throwing minimal food in there and everything's good. If I had done that back in 1995, I would not have lost all of those fish, including a silver arowana that was like 1.5 feet long, and it broke my heart when that fish died. My friend felt really bad, but I told him, dude, this is my fault. It's not yours. And he was like, But anyway, he was a good friend. Still a good friend to this day. Didn't affect our relationship at all because it was my fault. I was dumb. Don't be dumb like me. Anyway, thank you so much for this. This is, I don't know, sometimes I do these videos and I'm like, man, it's a lot of doom and gloom, but I've said it before in other videos and I'm going to say it again. I like to share with you mistakes that I've made in the hopes that you don't make those mistakes. That's my job. That's what I do for a living. Don't be dumb like me. Don't make the mistakes that I've made. Your fish will be happy and healthy forever. And your pet sitter will be happy too, because she or he is making money and doesn't have to make any decisions and has no threat of doing the wrong thing like my guy did. But he really didn't, because he didn't know what the right thing was to do. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to support what we're doing, keepfishkeeping.com is the best way to do it, or you can become a channel member. We do channel member live streams every other week, 9:30 p.m. on Friday nights. It's a lot of fun. We bring you onto the stream with us to talk about your tanks and maybe talk about mistakes you've made or triumphs you've had. I don't even know if that's a word, but I'm getting delirious at this point. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.